My name is Hemant. I am a program manager in PowerShell team at Microsoft. And with me, I have Bingfeng, and she is a developer in the PowerShell team. So how many of you have used Cloud Shell? How many of you have heard about it but not used it? Okay, so there are some people who will get something out of it, and other people will get more than that out of it. Okay, so before we talk about Cloud Shell, let's talk about what was the life before Cloud Shell. So if you're trying to do things in cloud, and specifically in Microsoft Azure Cloud, you have some CLI, whether it's PowerShell or Azure CLI. You have VS Code you have to download. You have Storage Explorer. There's so many tools that you have to make sure you have them, which means you have to search, download them, and install them. And then when you try to use them, you have to authenticate. So you'll get this device login kind of thing. And if things are evolving every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever their cadence is, you have to do those things again. Like, oh, I'm running an older version. I have to upgrade to the newer version. And what all this means is sad joy, because you need to have the right tools with the right version in the right environment to be productive, right? If you are at a friend's house, can't do it because you don't have the tools, you don't have things. So that's a constant struggle people love or not love. And that's where Cloud Shell comes handy and useful, because it gives you an administrative environment in the browser to manage Azure. Authentication is built in, so when you log into the Azure portal, that same authentication just flows through. You don't have to do additional. You get a choice of shells. You have both option of PowerShell and the Bash shell. So you can use whatever shell works for you. And then you have a storage account where you can save your files and scripts. So no matter where you go, those scripts and files comes along with you. And lastly, you have all the tools built in, the latest version, up to date, whether it's Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, Vim, Nano, Emacs, Code, Terraform, Ansible, all Git, SSH, all those things are there. And essentially that means you're saving time. You're not focusing on all the tools, but you're focusing on what you want to do with those tools. So again, important thing is not creating your environment, it's about using that environment. And so I'll talk very briefly. We have, I think, about 7 slides. One of them is intro, one is ending, so less slides, more demos. At a high level, how it works is there are hundreds and thousands of containers already running in Azure waiting for you guys, say, come, connect to me kind of a thing. And they are spread across all the region, 15 data centers, different regions, whether it's Europe or US or Asia, you have them. So you get connected to the closest one, so you're faster to work with. And then there is a storage account, that is your storage account that gets mounted. When you connect, like, hey, XYZ has this storage account, they already told, I'll mount it for them. So in their experience, those files are present. And then you have this entire experience from multiple places. And since we are talking about multiple places, let me talk you. So go through that. First is the Azure portal. So you go to the portal.azure.com, click a button, we'll go through. Then you have a standalone full shell.azure.com. So there's no UI. Its entire screen is shell. Then you have VS Code integration with Azure account. So you download it, then VS Code, which is running locally, again cross-plat. You can have this extension work with your Azure services. And documentation. As you start learning about Azure services, like, oh, here's an example. I can copy and then open my local PowerShell and authenticate and run it, or I can just click it and it'll open the Cloud Shell in the documentation as a side pane. And you can start playing with it. And lastly, if you are brave enough to try it on your mobile phone, you also have it. I know the typing experience is not the best at this point, but that's something we'll fix it eventually. But we are not there yet. So that's my portion of the slides done. Any questions before we get into the demos? Okay. So here is your portal.azure.com. I'm already logged in. Here is a PowerShell icon. You click it, it opens up. Should open up soon. And throughout my demos, things are a little slow because my account is in West US region. It should be in Southeast Asia for me to be very fast, but I didn't spend time to move my environment. So here you open, it will remember your last shell. If I use PowerShell the last time, by default it'll open PowerShell. But that doesn't mean you have to use your last shell. You can always change by using a drop down. So this is the portal experience. You can maximize, go back, minimize, and then you can even open a full on shell.azure.com. And this is going to open PowerShell again. And let me open another browser. It works in any browser. And go to shell.azure.com, authenticate it. Same thing, blue PowerShell, the blue one. And what I'm going to do here is change it to bash. And the reason I'm showing it is if you have played with it in the past, it would have told you, oh, I'm going to kill your PowerShell session because we want to give you only one shell. That's not anymore. You can have a bash session open and PowerShell session open at the same time, do something here, something there, or experiment, play with it. So that same option is available across. Good question. Containers. So in the back, if you will see on the PowerShell one, is if you do PS version table, it's running 6.1 PowerShell core on a Linux container. PowerShell can run on Linux on Windows. Bash can only run on Linux unless you use WSL, which works on Windows. So this is running a Linux container. So same container running, giving you two experiences. And that is one reason you can run them at the same time. In the past, you would be running a Windows container for PowerShell experience, a Linux container for Bash experience, and then giving you two session means we are using twice of the underlying containers, which is expensive. So one thing you will see is you land in something called Azure PS Drive. So before I go in, there are a couple of options you can do is text size. Again, these are the settings. You pick one. It sticks with your account for till you change it again. So change your font and text sizes. And then you have documentation, other things you want to play with. So you will notice the first thing is Azure Drive. And essentially, it is mounting your entire Azure space as file system or similar to file system. So if you go and do a dir, it'll show all your subscriptions. And here I have a bunch of subscriptions. You can CD into a specific subscription. And again, list what things are there. And it'll give you various views of, hey, you have all resource views, all the resources, I don't care what they are. Or I can go from a resource group perspective, or high level like virtual machines, storage account, and web apps kind of thing. So this is the one thing that Jeffrey was talking about, ships. So ships is the underlying platforms which allows you to abstract things and make it happen. And if we have time, we can get into the details of how it's implemented. But it's available not just in Cloud Shell. It's available in the gallery, so you can download it on your local boxes. And then the only difference is when you run it, you have to authenticate, versus here it's already authenticated for you. But otherwise, the experience is the same. And we talked about the, let me go to home directory. We talked about the tools. So here you have the list of tools like Ansible, Terraform, Emacs, Vim, all those things you can see. And now you can see the source location. It tells you it's Linux, if that was a doubt. Another thing which we talked about is the notion of storage. So far, everything is running locally, nothing about your files. Wow, Sure. Start again. So we'll have multiple versions or multiple files here. Here you have Cloud Drive. So if you go into Cloud Drive, and since it's Linux, it's case sensitive, that is your Azure files. You can see files and folders here. This is the storage account in Azure, and the same one is available here. So if I do ls Cloud Drive, you will see the same files. So same file system that will work in Bash and PowerShell. You can have mixed files, .sh files, and whatnot. And it comes with all the tools. So if you look at commandlets, so you say get command, command type, functions, commandlet. And here you have about 2,500 commandlets. Most of them are Azure commandlets. Azure commandlets are in there, plus built-in PowerShell core commandlets. And Bengfin will show you how you can increase those numbers. And if you don't have something, for example, Posh Git, if you are doing things with Git and you want PowerShell experience or coloring, you can go and find in the gallery and install it. Whatever you're installing goes into your account or in your image, and that persists. So you have to do it once. Modules that are not pre-baked, you can download from the gallery or wherever you want, and it's available. So I can just say get module Posh Git. It's not loaded, so I have to say list available, and it's there. It's installed in your local home directory as a PowerShell module. Question? Ask your question in another way.
Is there one and only one environment instance per user or per what?
So the question is there only one environment instance per user? So yes, the user get one container assigned. Within that container, you can launch n processes. So if I open n tabs in my browser or multiple browsers, it will connect to the same container, but it will be running 3 or 5 different PowerShell process or Bash process. No. So storage account is tied to your user account, and once you attach it, yeah. So storage is the same. Yes. Yes. So now you have modules, you have code, but what if you want to write or develop something locally, test with it, and it's like, oh, this is great. Now I want to upload it. So there is a simple way you can do is the file upload download. So there is upload and download options. So you can say, hey, upload this file or download this file. But this is 2018. Nobody wants to do that kind of a stuff. What you can easily do is take a file, just drag and drop, and it'll upload for you. So that makes it easy. You don't have to do clicks, complete. And if you're in PowerShell, you can even go and say export file. And in this case, it's in my home. Oh, sorry. You can even go and download. And it's not just files. You can download directories. You can zip them or download it, or it'll zip it for you, or any random content. So export file allows you to download things from your cloud environment locally, and upload allows you to take your local files to the cloud. Any more questions so far? Yes? Sorry? OneDrive. No, it doesn't integrate with OneDrive. It is specifically tied to your Azure storage account or Azure files. Can you do a manual connection? You can, but but it'll be more like your OneDrive is mapped locally, and from that OneDrive you can upload to the cloud. OneDrive and Azure are not connected at this point. So you have files uploaded, downloaded, and then the obvious question is like, fine, I have scripts. What if I want to edit them or I want to create them? And that is very easy. You can just launch code with the file name, and it'll open in the browser. So this is the visual code editor available in the browser for you guys. And you can, if you cannot see, zoom out. You can just say editor, zoom in a couple of times. I haven't figured out if there's any other shortcut, but you can see them. And obviously, it says something wrong. It's not Microsoft Ignite anymore. So you can just say PSConf Asia 2018. So this is.
Do you also get the folder view, so you can show open the folder?
Yes. So the question is, do you get a folder view? Yes. Let me do that, and I can just say code $home, and this gives you the entire folder view as well. So good question. 35 minutes. The other piece I talked about is the try it. So here is your documentation. This is the new approach about doing tutorials. So you can just go and say beginner tutorial. First is saying if you're running locally, run this command. We are not doing locally, so we can move to the next one. And again, here you will see it's already authenticated because I already logged in once. But if you're not, it'll ask for authentication. And it's the same Cloud Shell environment for you present there. You can copy the commands, paste them, run them, play with, and see how things are. And second last thing is, so all this is in the cloud, great, but if you really want to do something locally, you have a solution called VS Code. So on my box, I have already installed the Azure extension. Once VS Code launches, I can do open Cloud Shell in VS Code. And again, this is taking the same iframe that is available in your browser, bringing it locally. Well, I'm not signed in yet. Yeah, I'm signed in. So it should, yeah, so it's now opening PowerShell in Cloud Shell. Again, you can open the bash experience as well. Hopefully, it'll start soon. And the other aspect is taking those files. So this is another extension in VS Code, which is about your storage, Azure file storage. You can take that same extension. So my demo was here. I can go and see, here's my storage account, and go to the file shares, and here is my, and that's the same file that we uploaded. You can open it locally here, and it tells you it's opening through Azure storage account. You can see and make changes. It looks like I didn't save it. So psconf Asia, Control S, it'll just go and upload it for you back. And if you go to the terminal and pick the right terminal, you can run so local things present. And lastly, if you really want to customize your environment, is you can just do the standard you have profile. So let me increase the font. You have $profile. It tells you where your profile is, and if you want to do all users, or sorry, current user, all host. So that's your default profile. So I can go into that file location, $home.config, PowerShell, and move my profile dot backup to profile.ps1. And next time when you launch, it's going to read your profile. And the way it goes about it is checks if there's profile. And if executing profile takes more than some seconds, it'll tell you how long it took. Again, play record. So here is the profile which changed my prompt, and it shows different things at different point, kind of thing. So if you want to customize your environment, you have that full power of running your custom profiles because it's PowerShell environment. I think that's all I have, and I'll hand it over to Pinky. Question? How much memory is assigned to such a container? It is 2 gigs. And I think it might be more than 4. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was most of the time space more memory
That's right. Yes. Yes, so multi-factor authentication. Good question. So multi-factor authentication is already built into Azure. Since when you log into portal, it supports multi-factor authentication. Nothing special. So if her account has expired, it might be she might have to do multi-factor authentication, and when you do it in Azure, it's already enabled for our account, so we have to. Any other question? Okay.
Okay, all right. So how do we feel about Cloud Shell so far? Do you guys like it? Awesome. Okay, so Heyman is like a magician, so he's playing magic, show you guys all the Cloud Shell. And I will be the naughty kids who take over his magic hat and show you what's underneath, okay? So I'm going to tell all his secret to you guys. All right. As a developer in the Cloud Shell team, I'm going to talk about what's under the covers, okay? So you see what experience we want to present to you guys. And you might also want to know what's happening below that. Like you just ask question, what kind of container and what's the system configuration for that? So after this, I can explain more on those facts, okay? So here are all the components that work together to provide you all the Cloud Shell experience. And in the middle, you can see the Client Shell client. That's the thing that Heyman switched backward and forward to, like the browser-based, you either access portal or the shell.azure.com. It could be the Visual Studio Code, the extension, you launch it. It could also be the Azure mobile app, right? So that's all the clients you can choose. Let's say today we choose the portal, okay? Because most people, they're familiar with the Azure portal. By clicking this button, okay, then I will explain the flow that happens all after that. So click here. Client will spawn a request to our Azure Console app. What does this Azure Console app provide? It gives us all the client components, which will draw the iframe for us. So inside of this iframe, what we get is Xterm emulator, because the thing you saw, it's a terminal, right? And also a Node.js web server. That's the thing that interacts with the client. And plus all the HTML, CSS, and all the JS files, okay? Meanwhile, it also sends a request to ARM. ARM is the resource manager, which is responsible for authentication. We have to verify you have a valid Azure subscription, right? So that we can charge you. Also, it verifies the Azure account, your storage account, and so that we can persist all your files and the things you downloaded. After that, client will get a valid JSON web token saying, hey, you're good to go, all right? So after that, the iframe start to show you the all the UI components, which you can see here. All right? And next thing on your screen, you will see requesting a Cloud Shell. So who is responsible to send this? Of course, it's the client. So client sends this request to Azure Cloud Shell resource provider. Okay, this is a web service. It exposes a bunch of web API. One of them is the put console. Of course, it has many more like get, put, user settings, which will remember which shell type you choose and your storage account, all those things. So besides the REST API server, it also do a bunch of things, like it monitors the whole Kubernetes cluster's health and usage. It also is responsible for pre-pull the image for the cluster, because all the nodes here, they need the Linux image, right? And resource provider is responsible to manage that image. And last thing it does is resource provider also monitor the life cycle of the pod that we're going to deploy for you. Okay, so so you can see here, resource provider does lots of things to the Kubernetes cluster. But which node does it talk to? Okay, I already drawn the arrow. So you can see the master node is the one who responds to the RP, resource provider here. If you guys are familiar with Kubernetes, you will know that master node is special compared to other nodes. This is the one that talks to external, and also it has three major processes run on it. One is the API server, another one is the controller for the whole cluster, and scheduler. Okay, so master is responsible for managing all the nodes within the cluster. So it also maintains the desired state, because the resource provider saying, hey, give me a new console. Then master got that node, it will ask whoever in the node is available, saying, hey, we got a new task. Any of you can do that? If one of the node is available, this guy will sign up. Okay, so master will assign the task to the node 1 here. Node 1 will take over the task and spin up a Linux container in it. So with that, you will see on your client, you will see succeeded. That means, okay, we got a good pod deployed for you. So what's inside the pod? By default, each pod has two processes running. One of them talk to master, okay? And that's called kubelet. And the other one will talk to the gateway. That's called Kubernetes proxy. So basically, this node talks to both master and gateway node. Other than that, within the Linux container, it runs a Node.js server. Okay, so remember, eventually we want to set up a connection between the client and the server. This server provides a bunch of API service to client, which will come in next. Okay, so after we got the shell, now we're trying to connect to terminal. Remember here, the server side has everything ready. It has Node.js server. It also runs an external emulator. And now client is happy, right? Client want to say, get me connected to that server, okay? So client, again, cannot talk to the deployed pod directly. It goes through the gateway node. And gateway node will proxy the request to the actual server. And here, you see here, we do set up terminal and then connect to it. After that, we do set up a WebSocket connection between these two, client and the server.
So you spin up a Node.js server per container where you connect the Cloud Shell to? So is that like a multi-container pod or something?
Multiple.
Is that code okay, or can I see that Node.js inside of the terminal as well?
If you look for the processes, no, you will see a node process.
Okay.
And depending on how many connections you are
Yeah. So like the one we demonstrated just now, each shell you launch different tab of browser, that will start a new process within this container. And it could be running bash or PowerShell. If you look at the processes within that container, it will show you. Okay. So regarding what kind of hardware we have, so we try to go as low as possible, okay, to save cost. And also, oh my God. Okay, is that good? Okay. So we started with the lowest, which is 1 gigabyte, 1 CPU. But recently we found that people are adding more and more tools, and people are using more CPUs. So we also have the 2 CPU and 2 gigabyte container available now. And I think depends on the customer request, or like we will monitor the usage, right? If we see the hardware is as stressed, then we will upgrade. So.
And one thing I didn't talk, which kind of goes back here, is the entire compute that you're getting, interactive experience, that's free. There's no charge for it. The only thing that you pay for is the storage and how much you use it, which is kind of cheap, but that's the only time you are paying the price. Otherwise, it's free.
Yep. Okay.
Storage is transaction or just store?
It's the data used, not transaction, how much space you're using.
It's basically a home directory and the things you upload to Cloud Drive. Yeah. And it's like a couple of cents every month if you don't use it heavily. So it's not too much. Yeah, so basically this explains briefly the whole scenario that what happened until you get the prompt, the Azure prompt. Okay, I'm going to give another 2 demos, and then we will, if we have extra time, we will do questions, okay? So, where is my?
Go to
Okay. So, demo I will give is one is for remoting, the other one is for the exchange. Sorry?
increase the font. It's people in the back.
Because there are no indicators now. Whatever.
The font on the, not this one, not the editor, but the top.
I can just zoom in here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a new shell here, and I need to prepare a little bit for my demo here. So let me just run them. So if you notice, I have the code launched here to show my demo script. And the other one. So for folks who already been to Steve's talk just now, this afternoon, so he also talked about remoting and the exchange. So I want to call out the difference between my demo and his. So he demoed the ones in PowerShell core, and I am going to also use the PowerShell core since it's Linux, right? But the difference for us is this is Cloud Shell, and for Cloud Shell, since it's a standalone, it's a self-contained environment, we want to make your experience as good as possible, so we can kind of wrap a lot of things and save you extra manual step to do those things. So here, I'm going to go directly to my resource group, which I created for this demo. My resource group called Cloud Shell, it has the VMs I created. Okay, so basically imagine like if you want to do your work in Azure, you create a bunch of VMs, and this is to show you how you interact with them. So this is making an API call to the to my Azure subscription to grab the things into it. Okay, I don't know. So actually, since this come out, I want to explain a little bit. Oftentimes, like people using Cloud Shell, sometimes they complain about this connection got disconnected randomly, okay? Since we have explained the whole workflow, and you might understand that my connection was terminated because the WebSocket that established between the client and the container kind of get disrupted, right? So WebSocket is a persistent connection. If my network is poor, if I lost the connection between these two, then you'll be kicked out. It's not like a one-time request back and forth. I think that's the benefit of understanding what's underneath.
Can't you just notify the shell that if you are doing it normally, then you tell the shell that we will be terminating the connection, so then when you disrupt it, you shouldn't get this like message that says you timed out?
Right. I think the feedback or the point here is, since the client is trying to talk to the server in the back end, client can detect how long it is running, and if it's going to hit the timeout, you can notify the user to say, hey, in the next 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds, you're going to timeout, rather than timeout abruptly.
What I meant is now we got a message that said you timed out.
Right.
You were inactive 240 minutes, but we weren't.
Right.
We were doing our job.
Yeah.
So if it just terminates and shows this message, it should be
Yeah, this message is misleading. It just shows you that the connection got terminated, right? So I think what we can do better here is, instead of re-provision and reconnect to terminal, maybe we just re-establish the WebSocket connection, right? Because that's the only step that's broken. But right now, we just reconnected to everything. So.
Yeah, you had to reestablish your entire session state, right? So you lost the state as well.
Yes.
So this is a big problem.
Yeah, the state, the process, you are not connecting to the same process here. You're going to spin a new process. So
Yes, it's a new process.
Whatever happened is lost, so that's the big one.
Yes, that's because whenever we spin up a new terminal, we will create a new process for you. Okay, so I'm in my resource group now, and I'm going to see. I'm going to show you what VMs I already have. Because I'm in this resource group, so my get AZ VM will automatically be scoped to this resource group. Okay, so you can see that I only have 2 VMs in this resource group. What can I do with them? So I'm going to show you how many minutes? Okay, just copy paste then. Okay, so these are the commandlets that Azure module provide to us right now. So you can see what you can do with those VM. You can start, remove, or stop, okay? But you cannot get into the VM. And my team, we heard the customer feedback, and we provide you the way to get into the VM, or you can invoke command in your VM. So no matter it's Windows VM or Linux VM, these commandlets will work for both of them. So I have only 4 minutes left. Okay, I'll just quickly show them. So I can get into my Windows VM. You see here, it's automatically detected I'm in this Cloud Shell resource group, and it also automatically detects the IP of my VM. So here we are in it, and I can show you that I'm really in this VM. Okay, and next, we just get into the Linux one. This is just to show you that we have the capability to connect to any kind of VM. And
So can you ask the question?
Yes, no, go ahead.
Will you be able to attach the Cloud Shell to a private network? Because resolving to public IP address is not really customer. I never see that. Every VM has a public
So the question is, right now it's going over PowerShell remoting, and it requires public IP address. If you don't have a
Yeah, but today we only have to use the public IP to connect to VMs. Yeah, and the connecting to remoting doesn't come by default. If you just create a VM, you will not be able to connect to it. You have to enable the PS remoting, and what does this one do is it will create inbound allow port rules to your VNet, and it's the SSH for Linux, and right now we have the WinIM for Windows. Okay, let me see what else do I have. Oh, Exchange. So.
So will it create just an SSH session to the Linux machine, or will it try to attempt to log into PowerShell?
Looking.
It is creating a SSH connection, but it requires that your subsystem for PowerShell is started.
Okay.
And if it's not there, it'll go and muck with it and set it up when you do enable export.
Okay. So for Exchange, we know that it's a quite popular command line set. People like to manage Exchange. So we want to give that experience into Cloud Shell too. And just now, I think somebody asked about MFA, the multi-factor authentication. I want to show you that in Cloud Shell, we use the MSI, the Management Service Identity, to authenticate. Basically, that's safer. It does not save your password anywhere. And also, it goes very well with the application plus user combined authentication. So that when you connect to, you see here, when you connect to Exchange, all you need to pass is tell it, I want to use MSI dash identity. And what does authentication happen underneath is it will grab your Azure account, the token here, and use that pass to Exchange server and telling them, hey, I'm this guy.
So can people use it today?
Oh, this one is a private bits that we got from Exchange team. They haven't released yet, but very soon we will have it.
This is basically something is baking in the oven that's not right available for you guys to taste it.
But you can export file.
Yeah, you can export files there. Not for you.
This is a different container?
No, it's the same container. It's so we are working with Exchange team to make sure they can support Exchange command as in Cloud Shell. Right now we have a private build, but eventually it will be available in Cloud Shell for everybody to use it. This is just showing where it is heading towards.
Yeah, and Exchange works differently from AZ commands because Exchange uses remoting connecting to their server side. So actually, it's a new PS session underneath, okay? But we wrap it with a very light client, and the client, what it does is authenticate for you and then help you to new PS session. So you can see essentially it's just a remote PS session here. And we have imported all the commands, so I can just execute and set and call the Exchange commandlet. So here now you see I forgot to set my OOF message before I left. So I can do it now, actually, to set my mailbox in Exchange. Okay, so I'm going to show it again. Yep. So that's enabled, and my boss or my coworker will get this message if they want to find me. That's all. I think that's the demos I have.
Not the Azure AD. It's in there as well.
Yeah, it's there. There's nothing special.
Okay.
Working on core.
Yes.
So that's special.
Okay. So this is to wrap up all that we talked about today. Basically, Cloud Shell is a secured shell. It does all the authentication for you and provide all the awesome tools to you. And it's accessible from anywhere, even when you are on vacation or on the beach. As long as you have a phone, you can run any commands, okay? And we also have links for all the documentation and feedbacks. So give it a try and let us know. Okay?
So I know we are out of time, but if you have questions, you can still address it. question is Azure AD command list. So yes, Azure AD command lists are now working on .NET Core. There is a preview version of that installed in Cloud Shell or available in Cloud Shell. They are still working on naming. You will see if you look in, it's a different name. It's called Azure AD.standard. Something. We are working with them to fix it, and then it will replace the Azure AD module, which will work in both Windows PowerShell and PowerShell Core. Right, that's it.
Oh, and one last thing. Tomorrow I have a session talking about how to move your module to Linux PowerShell core so that you can run in Cloud Shell. Okay? Thank you. So many. That's crazy.
It's 10 minutes. Seconds. I have no idea what happened.
Because we have only trial. It says you don't have.
I was duplicating and recording this.
You guys are all going to the dinner, right?
Yes.
But I didn't see you doing that. Did
No,
you?
because I'm on a MacBook. I had to record it locally, and then I give a copy.
Yeah, this is
We-
recording locally.
We are using this tool, this stupid
Yeah,
tool.
I was.
I thought that maybe 7 times your notes. Do you have